offer me a microphone so I could stand out here. Secondary position here. I was listening and I heard you say something about wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. Well, I helped them wander in the wilderness for 33 years. And then somebody else came along and they went out of the wilderness. I'm wondering how many of you were here when I first came in 1963. Oh my gosh. Oh, that takes care of those. I'll just tear that out. That's no good. I was really going to embellish some things. What? Do what? Do what? I did. I tore it up. Anyway, first 100 years, there were 23 ministers. That's an average of 4.5 years. The first 133 years, there were 24 ministers. But you know that's only an average of 5.5 years. So that 30 years didn't add up to more average, because there was only one minister in those 33 years. Now, the 3 following, plus all of the ones that came in between for a little while, we call them interim. But we just count the 3 after that. Still only adds up to 5.5 years average for all of that time. Now, Mark is feeling pretty good. Because if he stays around a little longer, he could be second. He's third right now. Paul Becker stayed for 10 years at one time. So he's got to keep going a couple more years before he retires. Yeah.
They got to keep you that long.
Well, you could form a contract with them.
Okay.
Well, that's actually what I did. I decided I was going to retire at a certain time, and they said, well, then you can stay around, and I think it was 3 or 4 years. But I really had to retire after that, or there would have really been trouble. You remember that our family came here in January of 1963, a terribly bleak day. And it's the first time I had seen the building. And I said to Jackie, oh, can they stand that? I mean, do they really appreciate that building? It was in pretty bad shape. So when I came, I met with the elders, and I remember it was at Ed and Janet Hagen's house. I was only 30 years old. I didn't even know how to tie my shoestring yet. So went over there and got into all of the questioning, and wow, you know, for a 30-year-old meeting all of the elders, and they were all men. And some of them were pretty tough dudes, you know. And the questions they asked, I really don't know if I answered them or not, but we came back then in April of 1963. When we came back, and we came to build a church, Lauren Lair, who was the minister at that time, told me down in the furnace room in a church where I had served before, they need to build a church. They want to build a church. So I came to help build a physical church, but also the spiritual building. Our family, Barbara was 4+ years, Steve was 7+ years, Jackie was 28+ years, and I was 30+ years. Can you imagine all of the learning that took place in the 33 years, everything that took place in a person's life and in the life of this church? And when I retired, Barbara was 38, Steve was 41, Jackie was 62, and I was 64. I retired when I was 64 years. And most of that time, we were loved. There were a few times when we didn't know whether we were or not. But we lasted, and we decided to stay here and cause trouble for the ministers that followed. 1964, a year after we came, we had a centennial, 100 years. And I don't remember everything that took place. But that's not why we came. We came to build a program and to build a church. And we did in 2 phases, as many of you well know. The education building was finished in 1967. We worshiped in the education building while we attempted, and we had to tear this building down, the old building, and build the sanctuary. And it was finished in 1973. And the debt was retired in 1979. So we really did a pretty good job. And the amount of money spent back then was not comparable to what you would have to spend to build this building today. The sanctuary, the architect, can someone, now if you know, don't say so. Do you know, I ask you now, who was the architect of this building? Some of you may know it. Tim Jones, who was young at that time, and the son of Lowell and Bernice Jones. And he was working with the company that built this building. So you can blame him if you don't like the construction. There are 2 tenets, or 2 practices of the Christian church. And I'm sure some of you can tell me what they are. Baptism by and communion every Sunday. Those are about the only creed we have, are those practices. We have no creed but Christ. That's our motto. But this congregation, when I came, in order to be a member, you had to be baptized by immersion. So if you came from the Methodist church, and one lady especially in this congregation was really upset because she had to be rebaptized, but you had to be rebaptized. That's called closed membership. But in our 30-some years, sometime in there, we went to open membership, where why not feel like those who were baptized in another denomination, why not? That's fine with them. Why not with us? So if you become a member now, first you have to be baptized by immersion here. But if you come from another fellowship, you simply transfer your membership. That was one thing that happened. Another one is maybe more important. Lady elders. Women elders. That wasn't the way it was when I came. Oh no, boy, I tell you. But the women always did the work, you know, and so we came around to the place, and I don't know how we ever did it, but we did it, where we have women elders, and that happened in our ministry. And the first 2, I remember this, the first 2 elders, there were 2 Marys. Can someone tell me who the Marys were? Mary Buckley and Mary Miller were the first 2 elders. I don't know how long we kept them, but they were the first 2. Let me quickly say, and the only reason I'm giving you these numbers is because it speaks to what took place during those years. We blessed 255 babies. We baptized 395 people. We had 340 weddings, and 600 memorial services.